Again, crack codes in the DNA. Dracula, Count Dracula, or Vlad the Impaler, apparently had paintings of this famous wolfman in his castle, which tells you a lot, doesn't it, about all the vampire and wolfman stuff. And then you've got the tree man, the guy that is growing the fungus, I forget his name. He seems very happy though, doesn't he? And then you've got hobbits. I mean, they recognise the 8,000-year-old Indonesian hobbit, and you've got giants, and it's all crack codes. And here is official evidence that giants created Stonehenge. There you go. Giving them a good clean. Yeah, so what is reality? Whatever you want it to be. Lucas said this. I think Lucas is an insider. I think he's very much connected to the Brotherhood in many ways, but the truth that's coming out, the artist finds the truth behind the truth. When you look at the imagery in the movies that relate to the illuminated ones, you're looking at a strand of energy. You're looking at a vampiric nuclear energy in that sense, which comes through in everything. It's in art. This is an Arnold Böcklin painting from the Symbolist movement. This goes back to about the 1860s, way before Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings. He was probably inspired by it, but the point is this is an archetypal language. It's the same with what I call the wolf riders in the British Museum. They say this Syrian artefact's a horse. I can't see it myself, can you? Does that look like a horse? I don't know what, it looks like a big dog. Anyway, but they say that they were riding on the back of horses. Could be stylised. Movers implant beliefs, of course they do. It's very interesting, isn't it? In terms of juxtaposition. Sorry, I'm ever so sorry. I got into real trouble. I did this lovely painting of the Queen Mother to commemorate, her departing, and it went on the web. And then there was all these people blogging about it and talking on forums. And one guy said, "Have you seen this image of the Queen Mother?" He said, "I don't think. Do you think the Windsors have seen it?" And there were backwards and forwards on this forum. And one woman said, "Well, he's definitely not going to get an OBE." I thought an OBE stood for Other Buggers' Efforts. Anyway, that's something else. Anyway, look at that one, that's great. Apparently this was in the Daily Mirror years ago. That was apparently, the caption was the Queen and Camilla going out for the day. Anyway, there's a bug, my mother's always saying there's a bug going round. And this is Blake's image of the ghost of a flea. And funnily enough, there's a little story behind it, but I mean, at the time with Samuel Johnson and the developments in medicine and the use of microscopes and they were studying fleas in Scotland at that time, biting midges as well. And when you enlarge a biting midge, it's got a human persona about it. So you're looking at other levels and other dimensions. The flea in this case is carrying a blood bowl, and the reason why Blake painted it, and I've said this in other interviews, is because he was so fed up with the elitist art structures, not least the ones that came out of the Royal Academy, and it was all about portraiture and real portraiture. He said, "I'll give him a portrait." So he gave him a portrait of a flea on another dimension, which is quite interesting, isn't it? And then, I mean, this is talked about a lot. It's in David's books, it's in other books, but I found this in Barcelona when I was over there years ago. This is from the mosh culture of South America, giving it the old Il Conorto, the rock and roll sign. It's actually a sacrificial lamp. So you know what's going on here anyway. It's all in the art, it's all in the symbolism. It has been for thousands of years. It's all in imagery. Spot the difference? No. And this is where I disagree with some of what the panel was saying. I don't think they are human. I think some of the forces at work are very much vampiric. I think that's why there's been a massive amount of influx of vampire movies and things like that. I think they're trying to persuade us, or consciously, to accept this kind of nonsense. And the human form and the true human being won't accept it. The technology exists in a vampiric way. I mean, I'm going to whiz through these, but the Lucas movies with the Sith probes, and then we had this stuff. These were in trouble recently, weren't they? By the Civil Aviation Authority for flying them illegally, apparently, making arrests using probes. And then you've got the Japanese developing robots. But it goes much further than that. I mean, the whole idea of robot armies is very much on the cards. In Revelation, they talk about locusts descending on the earth. And then on Fox News, they were talking about the American military using robot flies in their millions as part of warfare and gathering evidence. Funnily enough, when they say did not have the seal of God on their forehead, I think that relates to the microchip. So they wouldn't come hunting for you if you had the microchip. The robot technology is very much there, and it's very much part of the way in which this predator consciousness, this left brain, kind of reptilian brain, which is right at the centre there, right at the in the pineal, in the limbic. The whole idea of this is to change society in this way. Those that lose the dream are lost is a wonderful Aboriginal saying, and what I'm going to do now is look at some of the wonderful things that relate to bringing this back to the power and creativity, and how this relates to the sun as well. I had an experience about a couple of months ago where my website was hacked and destroyed. In fact, it was Karen who told me about their website not existing. And when I spoke to my web guy, he said to me, it's not malicious, you know. He said, these are robots that surf the net. And they're using codes that piggyback on the website codes themselves. There's been a hack that takes place, in other words, and they lock into the website, they change the codes, and here's the best bit. Unless you understand the code, you can't see the hack. And my website eventually ended up like the donkey in the air. You know, it'd been hacked and burdened with that many Viagra adverts and other things. There's nothing to do with me. And then that was the hack. And I think this is very much an essence of reality. I think that this reality, via the body computer and the DNA, is very much under a hack in that way. And that's something to do with the way in which we are programmed from birth, very much, and also the way in which the DNA operates. So like I say, the codes that relate to websites become pictures. If the codes are changed, the picture changes. That's why my website disappeared. You only change 2 or 3 codes and the picture looks different. What we have to do is try and understand the codes. In many ways, we're being firewalled. The DNA has been firewalled. You know, it's been shut down. This is through the left brain programming as well, so that we don't access all those other levels of reality. And the brain, being a CPU, relates to that. My feeling, though, is that out of the centre of the universe, or the centre of our universe, is this amazing and immense photonic energy that is talked about now in all these books like 2012 and the catastrophe, the Mayans, and all this kind of stuff. And from a visual point of view, it kind of starts to make sense. I think what's coming out of the centre of the universe is this almost God code. Greg Braden talks about the divine matrix. And this energy is infusing all of the stars and all of the suns within our galaxy. And this energy is being passed on to everything, all life, because ultimately, as I'll show you, we are all the same. We are a solar system, and we are planet Earth, and we are stars in that sense, as you'll see from the imagery. As I see it, and I talk about it in Kokoro in this story, there's something coming out of the centre. It's coming from the heart, and it's awakening the solar energy, which is the lion, and it's been portrayed like that right throughout history. And the sun is waking. At the moment it's sleeping, but the sun will wake. And when it wakes, we'll feel it on Earth. Our ancestors have felt it before. We'll also feel it in the brain. I had this wonderful vision as I was flying over America this summer, and I had this idea of a solar flare that we felt on Earth that affected us directly through the thalamus and the pineal gland, which is the third eye. And it was almost like, you remember those Etch-a-Sketches as kids where you used to draw with magnetic filings and then you'd wipe the screen and start again? It was almost as though if we could flick a switch, like in the Muse song, you know, that wonderful song about the uprising, if we could flick a switch, then we would see the world as it truly is. We'd see it as infinite and holy. In fact, it's going to happen, I swear it. There's going to come a point where we're going to go, oh my God, is that what we were thinking? It's nothing like we thought it was. It's almost like the game will be over through divine intervention in that way. And we are those divine beings. My feeling is that a predator came in and took away the codes, and I think this has got something to do with the alteration of the pineal and the brain through DNA. And the Vatican have the court of the pine, don't they? The pine cone. These are Syrian images of taking. And this relates to the 13th stone in Reg Lewis's book, the taking of the stone and the replacing of the stone. Christ is the sun in that sense, and it affects the pineal gland as it opens the third eye. It's also crystalline. It sits there as a crystal. My work over the years has been about taking and removing this vibrationary field, this net around the Earth, which relates to this idea of this awakening that's coming our way. And like I say, I show in comparison there the size of the Earth in terms of solar flare activity. It's gone quiet. There's a quiet before the storm. There's going to be a period now as we move through this, and I really do feel this, and it's coming to me more through channel than looking at it scientifically, because I'm not a scientist, as I say, but the idea of this activation of the codes, the true codes within our DNA. And I show this in the book. This is the lion entering the eye of the heart, and illuminating the eye. This is the pineal, illuminating it, so that we see as we go through the lodge of the mind, we see the predator within ourselves, and it completely and utterly, not obliterates it, but it fills the lodge with light. These are the vampires in the lodge, as such. The lion, Kokoro, which means heart, stands in the centre of the lodge, empowering the mind. And at this point, the mind is illuminated, the heart is open. This is the piece going back into the code. This is the story of Pahana that is going over through the ancient stories of the idea of the divine human coming back with the codes and reworking society, reworking the reality that we live in. It's all in the legends of the Hopi. I think David's got a major part in that story, my friend David.